Hey, welcome back to That 70s Card Show. My name is John Keating, and I thank you for joining me as I take a look back at the cards and the culture of the very colorful 1970s. We'll revisit a more simple time on our hobby by taking a deep dive into the sets and the stats with a generous amount of dad facts sprinkled in. That 70s Card Show is currently sponsored by nobody. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at that 70s Card Show at gmail.com, 70s Card on Twitter, or that 70s Card Show on the YouTube. This is episode 71. We are well, sort of kind of into our 70s mini series here, where I have asked collectors that I admire and appreciate and long to be more like to come on here and talk about some of the sets that they want to talk about from back in the day. Today, we are joined by, I'm going to click a button here, the venerable and honorable Mark Hoyle from up Massachusetts way. Mark, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing great.
So, Mark, I'm going to attempt to do a feeble introduction to Mark. Mark is just an incredible collector, and not only a collector, but somebody that collect and kept a lot of the stuff from his youth, and with a focus obviously on the Boston stuff. But really, Mark, you've been kind to me throughout my recent, especially my content creation journey here. You've always been kind with your time and your knowledge, more importantly. And what I tell myself before I even challenge Mark is right. Yet I put my hand on that hot stove anyway from time to time. So thanks for everything, Mark. I appreciate it. So we've been through this before with you. Red Sox. I forget who's number two, Celtics or Bruins, but it's close. But it's I'm glad that the Patriots are distant fourth in your heart. That makes me happy.
I mean, they've had the most. Well, all the teams have had good success, but they've had quite a bit. But they've always been number four.
Number four, huh?
Bruins.
You didn't like Gillette Stadium, not Gillette Stadium. What was it? Schaefer Stadium.
Schaefer Stadium. Then it was Gillette.
Victor Kayam, right?
Oh God, it was the worst stadium ever. Sitting on metal bleachers, it was the worst stadium ever.
Isn't that where the Tuck rule was born?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I lost my hair, but my memory is still kind of there. Although that wasn't that long ago. Mark's got everything, and he's got cards, he's got buttons, he's got matchbooks that I found out last night. I thought Mark didn't have something I had. Turns out Mark had it, and probably two or three of them. Two of them. Okay. I know of one card and its Canadian cousin that Mark doesn't have, but I assume that Mark has every other thing ever made if it pertains to the Red Sox, Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, and all that stuff. Are you almost at the end of your journey?
I'm pretty close.
Are you really?
I've been collecting pins lately.
Yeah,
having fun doing it. Yeah.
So how do you display them? Because one of the problems you have, I know that you occasionally, under your breath, complain about is the lack of space in that card room of yours.
I have custom shelves all around the room, and I counted them last week, a week before at one point. I have 400 pins of buttons out on display where you can see.
Right.
And then I have these trays here like this.
Oh, there you go, man.
And I have 8 of those filled, and I just ordered 4 more.
Gotcha. So, I was thinking that today, Mark. I was thinking one of the things we forget about. Now you're also brilliant in your line of work as well, which requires skill and creativity and analytics. But one of the problems with our hobby is we buy cards and then we have to build the infrastructure for them.
Right.
It seems like it's a never-ending battle, right?
Right. This room was originally built for my music.
Okay.
And luckily, I made it all the shelving. They're adjustable, so it works for what I'm doing now.
Right.
When I turned it into my card room, I modified a few things, and I added other shelves around the whole perimeter, up at the ceiling. They're everywhere.
You reduced the square footage of your room, is what you said, right?
Yes, it's closing in on me.
Speaking of music, sorry, go ahead.
I'm on the second floor of an addition that's on my house, and when I originally framed this room, this second floor, I framed it where I could rip every wall out, and this would be one huge room.
Okay.
I had it. It's 3 different bedrooms for 3 different kids. They've all gone, but now one of them stayed as a bedroom. One of them's my wife's room, and I get this little spot. So
Yeah.
it would have been nice to have the whole floor, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, sorry to hear that, man. But I have thankfully for me, I have a lot of space. I share the space with my 20-year-old. It's his game room on the other side, but still, I'm fortunate to have a lot of space. Or maybe it's I just don't have as much stuff as you do. It's probably a little bit of
You
both.
probably have more stuff than me. I've been thinning it out really a lot lately. Really.
Yeah, I noticed that you've been selling a lot on Twitter. Is this duplicates or is this? Are you literally thinning your
A lot
PC
of
out?
it, a lot of probably half and half. A lot of it's duplicates, and a lot of it's things like all the complete sets I have for all the 4 major sports. I'm keeping.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a partial 70 and a 71 football set, maybe half done. I'm never going to complete it. I have no desire to complete it. I pulled the Patriots out and I just started selling the other stuff. I had numerous just one-off cards all through the 50s and 60s of football stuff. I'm starting to sell those. I'm going to be 60 in 4 months.
Right.
I have to start thinking about it somewhere. It's things I never look at.
Yeah.
I've been selling them to buy a few things that I want. For the last 4 months, I just used that money to buy anything new. I haven't broke into any personal money or even card shows or whatever.
Now you've been at this a long time, and one of the things that amazes me about you is your you do have a lot of the stuff you opened out of packs as a kid, and that I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And the shape you kept your stuff in. Did you know? I mean, why were you so enlightened that or is this the stuff that survived in good shape and you were throwing cards against walls and stuff like that?
I didn't. I mean, everybody talks about my era putting the cards in bike spokes.
Mm-hmm.
I might have done that one time. It didn't happen as often as you think.
Right.
Out on the playground, I don't ever remember flipping cards against the wall. My father-in-law talks about it, and he probably did do it.
Yeah.
We traded cards all the time on the playground. I don't ever remember flipping them because I would never want to lose them.
How did they get to school though? In decent
We
shape.
put them in. I mean, I guess they went in our pocket or whatever you carried to school.
Lunchbox, maybe metal lunchbox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
my
cards went from packs to a box as a kid.
Right.
That's where they went.
Yeah, and
no pages back then.
What point did you start to, since you have so much ephemera there? What point did you start turning your attention towards that and turning your attention backwards, because it's really a well that never runs dry, this hobby? When did you start pointing backwards and buying not only old cards but old stuff, because you have a lot
old
of
stuff?
Yeah,
I've always kind of picked it up here and there, and again, it proves a point. My mother moved this summer after 60 years in the same house.
right.
I found a box of stuff there in the attic that was mine, and it was all just little pieces of memorabilia, Boston related, that I completely forgot I had.
Right.
And I pulled it out, and it fit perfectly in here.
Right. And some of it came to me, by the way, which I really appreciate.
Yes, it did, and there's still
sitting
more
behind me. Yeah.
I still have about 8 tubs in the basement of stuff I have to go through, and you're going to get more.
It's crazy.
But I mean, I try to keep, if it doesn't fit on a shelf or in a binder, even if it's not a card. I mean, I have a baskets full of magazines and top loaders. I don't want it. I don't collect signed jerseys. I have very few signed baseballs. I have maybe 5 or 6 full-size pennants. If it's too big, I just don't want it.
So I was at a show, I forget where it was, and they had a 1967 banner that hung outside of Fenway, right there on the entrance street, whatever that is, that probably that it was signed by Yaz. What would you have done with that? The thing was 30 feet tall by about 3 feet wide.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done with it, but that's one thing I probably would have grabbed.
You would have found a spot for it, right?
I'll make an exception if it's the 67 team or if it's a Yaz or Teddy piece.
I got you.
Or even a Tony C thing. I just bought a broadside Tony C thing framed from an auction house.
Okay.
And it's way bigger than I thought, but
Oh
It's got to
well,
be the only one left.
you get rid of that window back there. If you fill that window in, you can hang it right back there.
I'm already getting my wife's anger just because her clients can see that as they walk up the back. I
Oh
even went out
well,
and looked, and you can't really see it that much.
yeah, yeah. So you're a big music fan, and you are as usual. You're way more evolved than I am. But what's your favorite band of all time? I think we've talked about this.
Uh, the Beatles and the Allman Brothers.
Beatles and the Allman Brothers.
Yeah. Followed
Some
by, I mean, I'm a big Clapton fan.
okay.
His early Cream stuff like that. Hendrix. Uh,
Speaking of Clapton, I had to explain to my son today or yesterday. We were driving back from somewhere, and the band came on, and he said, "There's a band called the Band." And I had to
mhm.
tell him that there was a time when people like Clapton and George Harrison said that their goal in life at one point was to actually be in the band.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, further. Did you ever see the last waltz with the
Oh
further
yeah,
up
man.
the row where the guitar
Yeah,
strap
yeah,
breaks?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
mean, Clapton, when he was in Traffic, I believe Delaney and Bonnie were on tour with them, and he just loved what they did, and they were similar to the band, and he ended up just touring with them
Yeah,
afterward.
yeah,
It basically stole their band
right.
and put out what I consider one of the best albums of all time, the
Yeah,
Layla album,
yeah.
and he played on Harrison's album, so it all kind of ties together. I did
Well,
a
that
whole
ties in
music.
with the Allman Brothers there too. Then,
It
right?
does. I did a
Yeah,
whole music chat, and I started it with, I don't know if you've seen these things. I started with Delaney and Bonnie, and it
mhm.
just spread out, and it's amazing the amount of people that fit in that umbrella.
It's like a coaching tree, right? As we do now.
It's like yeah, it was unbelievable.
Someday I'll tell you my Greg Allman story, or maybe I'll do it tonight if I remember. But we're here to talk about a set that you wanted to talk about, and there's many of them from the '70s.
Hmm.
What set did you choose to discuss here in a public
I
space?
I chose, and I think I might have threw you for a loop when I picked this one because
Yes, you did, by the way.
you
Yes.
probably didn't expect it. I picked the 76, 77 tops basketball set.
Confused the heck out of me, Mark. Absolutely, but it was brilliant though. It was again, I can't figure you out, right, or get a step ahead of you, and you did it again, and I thought it was brilliant. So why did you choose the 76, 77 tops basketball set?
I, for one, I thought you gave me the list. I kind of know who's going to be in on all this thing, and I figured everybody's going to choose baseball.
Right.
And listening to your show, you've done football, you've done baseball, you've done a little hockey. I don't know if you've done some basketball
I have done some basketball.
early, maybe early
Yeah,
on.
early on, yeah.
Yeah.
People don't like to listen to that for the most part, and not that I'm driven particularly by that, but yeah, people love the baseball, obviously, by leap, by miles ahead of any other sports. But the basketball stuff is fascinating in the '70s, for
And
sure.
yeah, um, this was a set that myself and probably a lot of other collectors they didn't like when it first came out because it was big. Uh,
Right,
we didn't put cards in binders then because they didn't really have pages. You could find them, but they, for a kid, they were super expensive at the time.
right, right.
So we stuffed them in a box. Nobody could do much with these. I over the years, I've come to really like it. It's my favorite basketball set. And
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's because one reason why, even though it was a very interesting time in professional basketball, was also kind of a almost like like the dark ages, right?
mhm.
There was a lot of hype in the '60s, especially with college and pro basketball, and then obviously Magic and Bird come along in the late '70s. But there was like a kind of a lull there, uh, where basketball took not only a back seat, but a rear facing seat in the back of a station wagon almost,
I
right? I mean,
mean, not for nothing, but some of the Laker Celtics early games in the runs in the finals, they weren't even broadcast live. They were taped and shown later.
yeah,
It
it's
wasn't even
amazing.
live.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows what they were preempted by, right? Probably,
Yeah, who knows?
soap or whatever, some,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this set, I mean, there's a lot of good basketball sets in the 70s. This one, the one reason I picked it is it's a 144 card set,
Hmm.
and there is 36 Hall of Famers in the set.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, huh?
And if you add the 8 All-Stars, which double up, you have 44 Hall of Fame cards out of a 144 card set. It's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
impressive.
crazy.
Pretty
Yeah, that's
impressive.
crazy. I'm gonna bring the checklist up. Like Mark says, these were big cards, 3 1/8 by 5 1/4, and
Mm-hmm.
checklist fits on one card, one through
Mm-hmm.
144. They were 10 cards would pack for 15 cents.
Yep.
You remember buying these, right?
Yep. Yep.
24 packs per box. So in theory, you have a set if you had a box.
Right. I
Uh,
I probably had a box. I have a full set, and I had almost a second full set. I've since sold it piece
okay.
by piece,
Okay.
but I probably had a box and some packs, and the collation was pretty good. So
Yeah, Tops, I brought up on the screen here. Tops was proud of the new supersized cards, which were kind of a throwback to was it 69, 70, 70, 71, somewhere back then, I guess.
yeah, I have a couple examples. Yeah, this is the first set Tops put up.
Let me get you up here on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
these are
Beautiful
these are
set, by the way.
yeah, these are called the Tall Boys. That's a
Hmm.
beautiful set. And then the next year they came out with these.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those were different. Those were I don't even 2.5 by 4 3/4.
Different size, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they were different. They were the same size as they did some tall boys for football and one for hockey.
And and these are all different than the supers sizes, do we think?
Yes, they're different than the
Okay.
supers. They're the
I know
same
the
size.
thicknesses.
If you
Yeah.
go to baseball, they're the same size as the 71 greatest moments.
Greatest moments. Yeah. Yeah, which is a whole
Yeah,
other thing, right?
yeah.
Tops
So
was getting busy. I wonder why they decided to come back hard with these big cards because
I mean,
you know,
these are you can see they're almost. There's another card next to it. They're almost double the size.
yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. And like you said, you just gave us, you couldn't tote them around like you could the other cards, so they stayed in
no,
a box, right?
they stayed in a box, and
Stayed
these
home. They couldn't fit in your Levi's pockets.
no these the set I have is pristine. The
Is it?
corners are crisp. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So, uh, yeah, I threw up I done throwed up a
Box.
package right there, a box from the thing and the wax pack, obviously. 144 cards, 13 rookie cards, although you and I kind of debated
Yeah.
the true meaning of a rookie card because basketball struggled to get true rookie cards in the sets. Um,
Well, they've all
back
had
then.
1 year under their belt usually before. Here's the top one for
Yeah.
the set. This one here.
Yeah, that guy was a beast, huh? They
Yes.
bring him back up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. NC State, right? What was he?
Yep.
A Nugget? Yeah, he was a Nugget, right? Yeah, he
He
was
was a nugget.
he's a
Yep.
baller, man. That guy could sky for
Oh
sure.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't other than that, there weren't that many. Eric Money is in there. Eric Money was a sixer at one point. But
Lloyd
David
B.
Thompson,
Free. Lloyd Free.
Lloyd Free.
Yep.
He's Lloyd on there. He's not World B yet, right?
Right. Right.
And Lionel Hollins was another one, I guess.
Gus Williams.
Gus Williams.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so that was that. Now I'm gonna look at some of these cards here if that's okay. I know
Yep.
you have them for real in front of you, but right off the bat here, we got to
Oh
talk
yeah.
about that guy
Yep.
right there, right? I
Yep.
mean, Julius Irving is a legend. We all know that. And he kind of
UMass. UMass.
UMass, yep, you're absolutely right. He's from the island there, the Long Island. And the design is beautiful. It's got the basketball team's name vertically on the left, and then a series of basketballs dropping into the net. But that picture of Doc on the bench, having a probably just water because I doubt it was Gatorade, but he's listed as a New York, a New Jersey net, I guess, right? New York
Yep.
Nets, New
New
York
York.
Nets.
Man.
Yeah,
New York.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about. You were telling me a story about how he became an ex New York Nets
X.
player.
X. Well, this set, the other top sets had over 200 cards, 233, 264, 330. This set rolls around and there's 144 cards.
Right.
One of the reasons, and I think the main reason, is the ABA, 4 teams, that league folded, 4 teams got eaten up by the NBA. So they had less teams to go by. Irving was a property of the Nets. New York Knicks were a little upset because their territorial rights are being infringed on by the Nets. So the Nets had to pay them $3 or $4 million to come into the league, besides their entry fee.
Right.
They didn't have the money. They offered Dr. J to the Knicks to waive the fee, and the Knicks turned it down. So they had to sell Dr. J to the Sixers to get the money to pay the Knicks.
It's amazing, huh?
And the rest is history.
Yeah, so he's depicted as a Nets player, but I believe
He never
76.
played for him again.
Yeah,
He didn't play for him this year.
yeah,
Up.
he went to the Sixers. He took the Sixers to a couple championship games, and they finally won it in
he joined George McGinnis. McGinnis skipped out of the league the year before. So
right, right. Yeah, he was a Pacer, right? Was he a Pacer back then?
He was
Something
a Pacer.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I guess the two most valuable cards in that set would be Kareem and Doc. Doc, I think, is obviously a more attractive card, but I also think, I don't know, it's probably a more appealing card because Kareem had been around for a while, had a lot of cards, but yeah. I like these, the cards are interesting. For other reasons, and you and I kind of talked about that as it has the college stats on the back, and then a bio, and then the pro stats.
I believe they're the first set to have college stats on the back.
Yeah, and it's cool because you can see on Docs it says he played as a freshman, junior, or freshman, sophomore, junior, and then he entered the pro basketball following junior season. It says it right there on the stat line, which is kind of cool. But it says varsity totals, which is another term.
Freshmen couldn't play varsity at the time, so.
Well, when he was there, they could. So you'll see here.
So. I'm
going to tell you why. Because on Kareem's, it says he started playing in 65 and 66. He played 4 full years at UCLA.
Yeah, I think the first year as a freshman.
JV. Team. That's JV, right? Yeah, I got you.
I mean, there's some funny, if you look at some of the guys, a lot of the ABA guys came from small colleges.
Right.
And some of them started at junior colleges first. So if you actually dig through the guys who played for the ABA, some of the small college, they don't even have those stats. So they just think he played college ball. And then they might transfer, and then they'll put those stats. Those are his high school stats.
Yeah, we have Moses Malone, card number 101, who has his Petersburg High School stats on there, which is how many? Maybe they have him on there now, right? I don't know, but it's kind of neat to see that. That's unheard of, putting your stats, and it says played on freshman team for his freshman year, and the stats are incomplete because who knows what kind of records they were keeping, right?
Yep.
But Moses at that point had been a pro, played in Utah, then he played in St. Louis, and he's depicted as a Blazer. I don't even know if I didn't even know he was a Blazer at any point.
He never played for him. I think he actually made a trip through Buffalo too, but I don't think he played for them either. He got traded like 3 or 4 times, but when the merger happened.
And he's probably, when this season, he is 76, 77. He's probably 20 years old, maybe. At that point. So, and he's already been a pro for his 3rd year, and who knows how many teams he's played on, right?
Yeah, a ton of them. Yeah.
So the design's kind of simple. We saw the checklist. We saw the design. There's also the All-Star cards, which are a little bit different. I'm going to bring one up here. That's Tiny Archibald. Instead of the stats, obviously, there's Topps first team and there's Topps, I think there's second team, right?
Right.
And the back of the card will have also all sorts of accolades for the player on the back. Kind of cool background. I guess surprised that they didn't attempt a puzzle, maybe, but I don't think they did that for basketball, did they? Maybe that was.
It's a weird setup too, because even though they have a first and a second team, they only have 9 cards.
I noticed that because I was monkeying around with that. I was like, why am I missing a card somewhere? There's your boy right there, right?
Oh yeah, Hondo, yes.
Yeah. So Hondo,
the All-Star, the All-Star subset, there's only one guy that's not a Hall of Famer, Randy Smith. It's just loaded. The whole set's loaded.
Yeah, I thought there was another guy. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me see if I can look this up real quick. I thought there was one more in there, but
Pete Maravich.
This is me questioning Mark Hoyle, and it never ends well for me. James Silas and Randy Smith. Is James Silas in the Hall of
Oh, was
Fame?
Silas on there?
Yeah.
I might have stuck him over in the ABA pile. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's that. Yeah, and James Silas, by the way, was rocking a great hairdo back then.
Yeah.
You'll see, Havlicek had been around a long time because I believe he won. When did he retire, by the way?
Oh,
He didn't play with Bird, right?
no, he retired a couple years before.
So
I
this
think
is towards the end of his career then.
if he knew Bird, he said if he knew Bird was going to be that good, he would have stuck around for a couple more years.
Isn't that what Yaz said about Clemens too, right?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, it's cool because Ohio State, his Ohio State stats go back to the 50s, the late 50s, and that's a 3-year
Yeah.
deal there. And
He,
Bobby Knight, he was a teammate with, is that right?
Bobby Knight, Jerry Lucas,
Hmm.
and Larry Siegfried, all pro players.
Crazy. How many championships did they win at Ohio State? Just one?
I think one, and they lost in the finals. Another one, I think, or Final Four.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love stuff that I love sets that bridge history, and that's one of them. Havlicek had been around a very, very long time, for sure. And we're going to bring up this guy too, right? Pistol Pete.
Yep.
Now, if you have any doubt, and Maravich gets forgotten about a little bit. He died young, played kind of, not in any of the big cities, Atlanta, New Orleans, Utah, but his college stats were just absolutely amazing. I think it's
Right.
44.2 a game over the course of his 4 years in college.
He's probably he's in my top 5 players of all time that I like.
Basketball?
Yes. He played with the Celtics his last year.
Right.
And he couldn't do what he used to do, but he played with Bird for that last 30 or 40 games, and it was incredible watching those two guys play.
Yeah.
I mean, he could score, but he was an unbelievable ball handler and passer too.
Most of the stuff I've seen, like footage is him of actually dribbling, which it's fun to watch because you see his scoring stats, but how did he get to the point where he could score? He could handle that ball,
Yeah, you have to go on YouTube and check out some of the drills he did. There's a whole.
I just saw that, right, with Red. Yeah, he was doing something with Red where he's bouncing the ball between his legs and getting it from behind. That's crazy, man. Yeah, it's funny. It just popped up. There's some beautiful shots in here that I also want to make light of because the photography, kind of talked about this with some of my other friends, is it was not easy shooting live action shots back in the 70s or 60s. And we know that 71 baseball kind of turned that around, but 71 baseball also had the advantage of shooting in outside during the daylight. And basketball players move fast, the ball moves fast, and a lot of these arenas were not lit for television or photography. And you see a lot of these in the 70s. You see a lot of these crowds just disappear, but some of these shots are just beautiful. And I'm always in awe of the photographers that could pull this stuff off. A lot of action cards in this set. That's for sure.
A ton of them. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
great stuff.
No horizontal cards, unfortunately, but
this is one of my favorites.
Hold on a sec, Mark. I'll get you on there. Let's get that back.
I'm liking what you're showing, though. Here we go.
Yeah. Look at that, man.
Besides Bird, Walton's my number 2 favorite player all time.
Interesting. I wanted to talk about him because he's another guy who. How many championships did he win at college? 3, maybe 4.
He won 2 because Thompson knocked him out his senior year.
75.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously he came from UCLA. He was probably the last dominant player that UCLA had before for John Wooden. Turned pro, won 1 or 2. Did he win 2 championships within his first couple of years? He beat the Sixers and won, right?
He won with Portland, and they were flying through the league the next year, and he got hurt.
He got hurt his ankles or whatever, right?
Yeah, and then the Celtics got him for the last 2 years. He was the 6th man on the championship team.
Yeah.
Absolutely loaded too.
Yeah, and it's funny because I kind of compartmentalize that. Bill Walton to me is a UCLA and Portland Trailblazers, and then he was a stone cold stud, and then he was a role player later on for the Celtics.
He came in and again him and Bird worked together unbelievably, and to this day, any kind of retirement ceremony, anything, Walton shows up for it. He only spent 2 years in Boston, but he actually loved his time here.
That surprises me because it feels like he was there for 4 or 5 years.
Just 2, and he loved it. Yeah.
So, and he won one ring there, I guess.
One ring there. Yep. Yep. And
Okay.
then he got hurt the second year he played. No, I mean, he was only a
He was
bit
he
player.
was already hurt. We know that,
Yeah.
right? But bad knees,
Yeah.
bad everything. Did
Yeah.
he was the Chief there and McHale there as well at that time? Yeah,
Yep.
imagine
Yep.
that having those three guys, and then you bring Walton in for a spell
Sometimes they had all three of them and Bird on the court at the same time with DJ.
with DJ, huh?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to dribble that ball
I mean,
halfway up, right?
cover who, you know?
Or Ainge, I guess, right? Maybe I don't know.
And yeah, I mean, arguably, I would think McHale might have the best low post moves ever in the
Yeah,
NBA ever.
that's amazing. Those teams were great, and to me, the heyday of the NBA is that the 80s when it was a different team winning it every year, and it was
Yeah,
it,
if you go
it
back
was
and look at the depth and the different teams that won it, and it's amazing.
the teams that were in the finals, like the Celtics infamously battling against the Rockets with Sampson and Olajuwon.
Yeah.
These were knockout, and then they'd have no problems throwing a punch at each other.
No, the Sixers and the Celtics had a good run.
Yep.
Supersonics won one. Portland won one. Golden State Warriors won one.
Yep.
Washington Bullets won one. Milwaukee Bucks won one.
Yeah, I want to talk about. You mentioned that, right? So I brought this picture back up, and
Yep.
Ralph Simpson, not Ralph Sampson, but he's got the ABA ball there, which
Yep.
is great. And there's that shows up a couple times in the set. We know that the ABA was no longer in existence, but and I got Doug Collins there on the other side. But a lot of these action shots were shot, and I called this out in the previous set that I covered in basketball. A lot of them were, we're used to baseball, the photographers being based in New York, but there was a photographer that shot throughout the 70s a lot of these sets in Washington. So you'll see a lot of accidental bullets in these sets.
There are a lot of these cars on this set.
Yeah. And I don't know whether it was a team photographer or whether it was a press photographer that was based in Washington, or whether that's where Topps sent their guy to shoot. But the bullets show up on a ton of cards in the 70s.
Yeah. This set they show up in a ton.
Yeah. So, I mean, no offense to the bullets, but they were they showed up a little too much, if you ask me. You have the whole set. You are going to keep that whole set. We're not going to sell that, or
that one's staying. Yeah, that
one's staying. Okay. That was my shameless attempt to.
I get a few extras still. I can send.
So we talk about Bill Walton, like we said. Bill Walton. It's funny because when I was bopping about the country in the late '80s, early '90s, Bill Walton would show up at a lot of the concerts, and he couldn't hide. It's not like you could, put a pair of sunglasses on and not be Bill Walton anymore. You look out in the crowd and you'd see a bunch of heads, and you'd see a pair of shoulders and another head, another 2 feet above everybody.
You went to a Dead show, he would probably be sitting on the stage.
He would usually hang out stage. I want to say stage right or stage left. There's only two sides, but yeah, I saw him at a couple of Dead shows doing the same thing.
The year he played in Boston, '86, in like the first couple months into it, he brought the whole team to a Dead show in Worcester.
Wow!
And he walked in the back door, and Jerry Garcia talked to him like he was a great friend of the guy, and the team was blown away.
Right.
And, they all sat backstage and watched the show.
Who do you think had better weed, Robert Parrish or the Grateful Dead?
I'm thinking the Dead did, but Walton did make a comment about Parrish when they went to the show, because he didn't really know how some guys were going to take it. Yeah. And he said the next day at practice, Parrish asked him, like, "Are you going to the show? I'd like to go again tonight."
Of course he would.
So,
of course he would. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a a lot of the African American players from the 70s are tied to the various movements and musical culture, but like I don't know of any other athletes, white fellas, that were attached to any kind of musical phenomenon. But Bill Walton was the guy. You didn't hear about any of these guys going to Black Sabbath shows or Eagles shows. It was Bill Walton and doing his thing, which is Yeah, he was cross marketing way back then,
All right.
which was
I'm
kind of
glad you
cool.
showed that Bill Collins card. I was actually gonna pop a few other ones up later, and I have a little quiz for you.
Uh, all right. Well, you know what? I'm gonna take Bill Walton off, and I'm gonna put you
Well, I
in
can
the
do it now.
solo layout.
So,
Yeah, let's
what do
do
these
this.
cards? What do these cards have in common, or what's the one thing that ties them together? We got Tom Henderson,
Tom Henderson,
Tom Burleson.
right?
That was Thompson's teammate. Jim Brewer, Dwight Jones,
Nice afro.
Ed Ratliff, another played for Jerry Tarkanian in college. Bobby Jones, Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
and Doug Collins. What do these guys have in common?
Were these guys 1972 Olympians?
That's right.
Yep. And uh, silver medalists that they never collected their
They've
medals,
never
right?
the medals still sit in some safe in Sweden or Finland or someplace. They refuse
Probably
to take them.
Probably Germany. I guess it was
They
Munich.
probably
Maybe
refuse to take
not
them.
Munich, or whatever it was. Yeah, yeah. Isn't that crazy? My.
That I watched that game live, and it
Did
broke
you
my heart
really?
that they lost. That's the first time the U.S. ever lost an
Yep.
international Olympic game.
So there was there's a documentary out right now called The Redeem Team, and for some reason, my wife, who was a professional dancer for years, grew up in a family full of girls, knew nothing about sports. She's fixated on watching sports documentaries now, and we watched something called The Redeem Team, where it kind of went over that history. And my wife was 50 years later. My wife is finding out about it, and she was throwing stuff at the TV.
I was as a kid. I remember
Yeah.
watching the game.
Well,
Yes.
the TVs, stuff bounced off the TVs when we were kids.
Yeah.
Mark, the TVs nowadays, nothing bounces off of them; they just break. So,
No, I mean, my TV was as big as this iPad I'm using right now too. So.
hey, do I get a point?
One other guy for you. What's the significance of this guy?
He is the father of Michigan Wolverines player. Is it? It's not Juwan Howard. It's
No, you're close. You're close.
yeah. It's one. Hold on. It's the coach of Michigan, right?
Yep.
Rose,
no.
Jalen Rose.
No.
Not-
Yeah, Jalen Rose. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's the coach of Michigan, is he not? Oh, Howard's the coach of Michigan.
Howard's the coach.
Yeah, okay.
This guy,
Yeah.
Jimmy Walker, is from the Roxbury neighborhood of Boston.
Is he really?
Yep. He went to a prep school after a couple of years. He went to PC.
Okay.
Was the leading scorer in the nation and the number one draft pick
Go Friars.
in the whole NBA.
Really?
He had a decent career.
Was he the Jet? Jimmy
Uh-huh.
the Jet? Was he Jimmy the Jet? Is that what he was, or just Jimmy
I don't
Walker?
know if they called him that,
All
but
right.
he
Maybe
had
I just
he
made that
led
up.
the nation in scoring.
Right. All right, man.
You passed. You got them both.
That's it. That was it. 2
Yeah, I
questions.
just had a couple things here.
Were those dad facts that you laid on us, or?
Well, I have some other good dad facts here. Like
Let's have
the
them,
really
man.
important things. Like in '76, what was the cost of a six pack?
I was 8 years old. I could tell you what cigarettes cost because my mom would make me go get cigarettes.
Yeah, you
The
used to go in and
six-pack
buy
was
them for $3.
$3.25. Not $3.25. That sounds expensive. What was it?
Six pack?
Yeah.
$2.61.
What kind
And
of
I think
six-pack
that
are we talking about?
It said I just looked this up.
Okay.
It said the average cost.
Okay.
I remember going in and buying beer when I was in high school. It was $1.65, but
Yeah.
we bought cheap stuff. So
Yeah, right.
that was one of the little dad facts I had. I had one tied to Philadelphia here.
I'm probably
76.
not going to get that one.
The first Legionnaire's disease affects 4,000 in Philly in 1976.
Uh-huh.
I just put that one in there because of your ties.
Yeah.
The Rocky movie was released.
All right, so let's back up here. First of all, it was the Bellevue Stratford Hotel where the Legionnaires disease, which gripped the nation, I think. It was amazing how 76 was a big year because the whole country was celebrating
The bicentennial.
bicentennial. I went to the All-Star game in Philly that year. It was a pretty fun year, wearing our funky hats in baseball. So, and then you moved on to what was after the Rocky. Okay, so the significance of the Rocky movie was the first usage of Steadicam in a movie.
Okay.
It was kind of like held together with rubber bands and band-aids and glue, but that's the movie that the Steadicam was developed on. And obviously you probably can get a picture in your mind of some of the scenes. It was, the boxing scenes as well as some of the training scenes. So.
Yep.
All right, man. Let me have another one.
The first commercial Concorde flight was in 76.
That's impressive. Was that BA or was that Air France, do we think?
I didn't
We
look
don't
that
know.
far into it.
Okay.
Apple Computer Company was formed by Jobs and Wozniak.
It's crazy in a garage, right?
The first space shuttle,
Huh. What was the first space shuttle? Columbia?
I think so. And
Okay.
those are the only. I only wrote 6.
That's it, huh? All right.
Well,
All right.
I mean, like the average income was 16,000. Which
We were
seemed,
talking off air, and we'll keep the numbers off air about some of the houses that what houses cost these days.
well,
You
that's
talk
one of the.
about that income. I think my parents bought their house in the suburbs. City people moving to the suburbs. It was on a quarter acre of land, and it was like $25,000.
Yeah, well, the 76, the average cost of a new home was $43,000.
Hmm.
Can't even buy a truck for that.
You're absolutely right. I could buy what it costs to put my kid through college. I could buy at least a house every year. So
Yeah. I'm like
um
3 girls were pretty smart, so
yeah,
it helped me out.
you're lucky. Well, our boys aren't as bright as they're held up to be throughout the world.
Yeah.
Let's talk real quick about the set. Like we said, 44 Hall of Famers and appearing on cards. There's some guys in there that I haven't heard of. Let's see here. Some of them got in as coaches, right? Jerry Sloan.
Yep, Jerry Sloan and Jackson are in this as
What do you know about Lou Hudson?
Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, what's his? I don't know Lou Hudson.
He played with Pete Maravich.
Okay,
The Hawks had a decent team, and Lou Hudson was a great shooter, small forward. I think he was a Big Ten guy.
that's part of the equation, though. Is the Hall of Fame takes into account your college Olympic careers
And
as well. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame; it's the
it took him a
basketball Hall
while
of
to
Fame.
get in. So I don't know the whole procedure for the NBA how they do it, but he got in well after he played.
What about Charlie Scott, who's listed as a Boston Celtic? What's his
Charlie
story?
Scott was I think he was the first black player for North Carolina, or one of the first,
UNC.
and one of the first players to play in the ACC that was colored.
Okay.
He played in the ABA for 2 years. Was the rookie of the year.
Man, you know your stuff.
He played for the Suns, and the Suns.
What was his ABA team first?
The Squires.
Oh, Mark Hoyle.
I love the
Amazing.
ABA. That's my thing. I love the ABA.
You know, he scored in his second year. His scoring average is 34 points a game.
Yeah, he led the league in scoring. I have that.
It's nuts. And
I mean,
college, 27 a game as a senior. That's for a Dean Smith team. That's pretty impressive.
In this set, there's it's staggering. There's 14 MVPs, NBA MVPs. There's 7 ABA.
Man.
There's 7 ABA MVPs. There's 19 Rookie of the Years between the two leagues.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And then some of these guys in the Hall of Fame weren't, I mean, they were players, but they're known more as coaches now, like Tom Janovich and
yeah, Rudy T was a good player though.
He was, yeah. He got cracked by who? Kermit Washington?
Kermit Washington. Rudy T, I think, was the number 2 pick in the draft.
Was he really?
He was good. He's a Michigan guy, I believe.
Let me see. I'm gonna check you on that. He is a Michigan guy, and he scored 30 points a game his senior year.
He's a number 2 or 3 pick in the league.
Yeah, he was. He came into the NBA for San Diego. I don't know who San Diego had. Was it the Conquistadors? No.
They turned into the Houston Rockets.
Is that what? There it is. So he's played for that franchise his entire 70-71 San Diego, 71-72 Houston.
Yeah.
Another fun thing about these cards, if you want to call it fun, that I didn't call out is if you look on the back, it tells you how to play basketball, which is always awesome. I don't know whether 14-year-old Mark Hoyle learned how to play basketball from the back of the card, but I always get giggles out of that.
Well, I did try to emulate some of Pete Maravich's drills, and I was not as good at it as he was. There's no way.
How did you emulate it? We didn't have videotapes back then. Or...
They used to at halftime. 70s basketball, they would have red on round ball at halftime.
Red Auerbach, yeah.
And he would bring on Maravich a lot of times, and he would have him do his drills.
How many years did Auerbach coach in the 70s?
Oh, he didn't.
Was it
He
Tommy
was gone.
Heinsohn at that point and
Russell
Russell? Yeah.
Russell coached 68, 69. So he coached until then. He was a
Okay.
player coach. Russell was.
Auerbach never came back again in the
He was
70s.
just the general manager. He'd sit in the crowd and light up
Yeah.
his cigar.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure would. The Boston Garden is a place that I had the pleasure of going through town with some
The old
bands.
garden. The
The
old garden.
old, yeah, there's only one garden.
Yeah.
It was a tough place to do a concert in. I can imagine but for you, it was the best place in the world to watch
Oh, it was
an
great.
indoor sporting event, right?
Yeah. Bruins, Celtics. It was great.
Did you ever
Great.
go to those famous Bruins games where the fog would roll in because
No,
of
I
the
never went to one
humidity?
of those.
No,
No, no, no,
because it didn't have air conditioning, right? That's
no.
Boston
It
Garden
was
didn't have air
pretty damn
conditioning.
hot in there. You could
Yeah,
smoke. Um, between the beer spilling, the smoke. I mean, it
yeah,
smelled like an old bar room, but
yeah. And it was
it was a cool
horrible.
place to watch
hor-
game.
yeah, I remember it well, man. I remember it well. Let's see what else we have to talk about. That's it for that set. I think it's a great set. I think you absolutely did surprise me on that choice because even though I've spoken to you about other sports before,
Yeah.
you're just hardcore baseball. I mean, you know everything about baseball. So,
Well,
how often do you go to the NBA Hall of Fame or the Naismith Hall of Fame? I know you go to
I've probably
Cooperstown a lot.
been. I haven't been in probably 10 years, but I've probably
Okay,
been 5 times.
all right. Have you been to Canton?
I haven't. No,
Okay,
no,
and I'm sure you haven't been to Toronto to the NHL Hall of
no. But I
Fame, right?
want to get to all of those. I want to get to them. I'll be at the Baseball Hall of Fame in March.
Nice.
I almost
Uh,
actually drove down just for the day last week, but I didn't do it.
yeah, I know you're threatening to do that around New Year's.
Yeah.
Tell me who the greatest and who your favorite basketball player of all time is.
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird, Larry Legend.
Yes.
Is there
Larry.
anything that Larry could not do?
Um, no, I don't think.
He could have been a point guard like Magic.
Yep. He
Uh,
rebounded.
he could
Um,
shoot from the perimeter. He could
yeah.
get boards, right? He could block. He could post up. He could block people out. He could do all
Yeah.
that stuff. How tall was Parrish? Was he 6'10", or was
Uh,
he a 7-footer?
he was listed as 7 foot.
Okay.
I think Larry made the comment one time: if he knew triple doubles were a thing, he would have done it more often. uh, and if you look at his stats, even though he was a great 3-point shooter, he didn't shoot a lot of them early in his
No,
career. It wasn't a thing.
it wasn't a thing exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, who was shooting from out there? I can't remember. I remember Magic shooting from out there, but it was just because he was open.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Glenn Rice was spotting up out there.
No, they didn't have that back
They just
then.
didn't
I mean,
do it, man.
yeah.
It was almost like it was an affront to their basketball skills if to take a long shot like that. They
I mean, if you look at it, every team had a center that was a good player, or Elvin Hayes, Wes Unseld, Artis Gilmore, Sam Lacey. All these guys were just big centers.
yeah, yeah. And the Rockets had two of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Later they had two. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Willis Reed, all Walt
Willis
Bellamy,
Reed,
all these
yeah.
guys. That's how you played ball.
Yeah, Unseld was a monster in there.
Yeah.
Like you didn't mess with Wes Unseld, that's for sure.
Yeah. Nate Thurmond. If you look at these guys, they were just monsters. They were big
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Artis Gilmore, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's in this set.
Yep, I'm sure he's got a wonderful fro going. He's on the all fro team for sure.
He's the guy. I think he beat. He was a rookie the same year Irving was, and he actually got the rookie of the year.
In
Irving
the
came,
ABA.
yeah, Irving
Yeah,
came second.
yeah. So for those of you, somebody might not know the story of the ABA. Let's talk about the teams that went away forever. Um,
There-
tell me the couple of the anecdotes you were telling me before we went on air.
Yeah, well, when the final season of the ABA, I believe there was going into just the year before there was 8 teams. 2 of them folded midseason. Utah, which was a staple, they were one a good team. They folded before the last year. So going into the last year, there was 6 teams. They had tried to get a merger for years and years.
Is that the Stars? The Utah Stars?
The
Oh,
Utah Stars. They were
okay.
actually a good team.
Okay.
They tried to get a merger. There was 6 teams left. The NBA only wanted 4. Kentucky kind of got screwed because I believe they deserved a shot. They were a really good team. They had a couple Hall of Famers on it. They accepted a buyout. John Y. Brown took the money and brought the Buffalo Braves, which are the
Right.
Clippers now. The 4 teams that got in are Spurs, Pacers, Nets,
Nuggets?
and Nuggets. And then the one other team was the Spirits of St. Louis, which had a cast of characters on the team. Malone was on that team. Marvin Barnes was on that team.
Your guy, yep.
One of my favorite players.
Yeah.
I saw him play in college. They did not take the buyout. They instead took a payoff, a percentage of the TV revenue of the 4 teams that got accepted into perpetuity forever.
Right.
And I think they made millions. And I think they finally got bought out maybe 4 or 5 years
Recently,
ago.
and it was hundreds of millions of dollars.
It was an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
And whoever was the owner,
they were a couple. I think they were brothers. I think they were a
Couple
couple
smart guys.
couple lawyers, right? And they took TV, like half of a share, a team share of
of the 4
TV money in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And absolutely one of the most amazing deals ever made in sports. You could talk about Bobby Bonilla all you want, but these guys were,
I mean, just the Spirits of St. Louis, just the name is cool.
Yeah. All those Kentucky Colonels was cool. The Tams.
If you go look at the history of the ABA, there's some teams. One team started in Pittsburgh, moved to Minnesota for a year, and went back to Pittsburgh, with a different name.
And there were two Rockets, right? There was an NBA.
One was in the ABA, one was in the NBA.
Houston Rockets and Denver Rockets, was it?
Yep. Some of the teams basically had a different name every year.
Yeah.
The Spurs started as the Chaparrals, and before that,
Yep.
I don't know. There was the Amigos that turned into I don't even know what. The Utah
Amigos.
Jazz were a great team.
Utah
Memphis
Stars, right? Stars, and then the New Orleans Jazz, and then the Utah Jazz.
Then they had a team, the Floridians. They didn't have a city and a name after. It was just called the Floridians. It was a pretty wild league. There's a great book, the Loose Balls book. I don't know if you've read it.
I need to read that. I don't know whether it was you or somebody else that sent me that. They sent me the link to a website too,
It's a great book. It actually breaks down year by year all the funky things that happened.
It's amazing.
And all the characters that came through the league.
What did we get out of that? The 3-point shot? And did we get the shot clock or?
No, the shot clock was there. We got the 3-point shot. The slam dunk contest.
Slam dunk. Dr. J, I assume won one or two of those.
He won the ones in the ABA.
Yeah.
I mean, just the style of play in general was wide open.
There's a website called remembertheaba.com.
Yeah, I have it saved. I read it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the ABA grabbed a lot of guys. Back in the old days, you couldn't get drafted or play in the NBA until 4 years after your graduation date of high school.
Yep.
The ABA didn't care about that.
Spencer Haywood, right? Spencer Haywood was the perfect example of that. Spencer
Haywood was the initial Rookie of the Year and MVP the same year, and his team won the championship. He was that good.
Yeah, and I think it was the Oakland Oaks that Rick Barry played for, and then in order not to compete with his contract, he had to be a broadcaster for a year or something. He
sat out for a year, and then they traded him to Virginia, and he refused to play for them or something like that, and he ended up with the Nets somehow.
It's a Wild West, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It was just the Wild West, wasn't it, man? It was absolutely nuts.
I think Gervin and Irving might have played together for a short while too. The Iceman.
Where, in Virginia?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, we ended up with a lot of good players from that league. That ended up in the NBA afterwards.
Well, just talking about big men, right? Like McGinnis and Gilmore, Malone, and you had Dan Issel and Gervin, like you said. Dr. J is probably my favorite player, I would guess.
James Silas, Ron Boone, McGinnis, they're all good players.
Your boy Bad News Barnes was in there, and I had a former colleague that played, I think, a year for the Pistons and a year for the Tams. So he was too out of it to remember any of the stories because apparently
I
it's just one big
I
blur
saw
for him.
Marvin play in college the year they went to the Final Four with Ernie D. They had a card show around here where they had Ernie D, Marvin Bonds, and Kevin Stakem, the three guys off that team that went pro.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought this card, one of these big cards, to have him sign, and he didn't show up. He was a no-show. Big surprise. Big surprise.
Wouldn't
And
get on a
then
plane, right?
less than a year later, he passed away. So there's not much
Uh,
getting that. So
yeah, that's you want to tell that story, Marvin Barnes' airplane story that I got wrong once?
uh I'll probably screw it up. I forgot how it went. He
He
didn't
was
want to
getting on
lose.
a plane. Yeah, he was getting on a plane in the Eastern time zone,
Yeah, and he was
and
having
they
a
were flying to the Central time zone, and they said they were landing before the plane took off. You know, they taking off at 1 o'clock in the Eastern time zone and landing at like 12:45 in
yeah,
the
he was
Central time zone.
something about a time. I'm not going
I
to go
ain't
into.
getting on no time travel machine or something, man. Awesome,
I mean,
awesome
it's a
stuff.
piece of work, but I mean,
I'll
he,
tell you my Greg Allman story. All right. So in 1989, I'm touring the world for a band, and we're in L.A. at the Continental Hyatt House. You ever read the books Hammer of the Gods?
no,
All
no.
right, Led Zeppelin, right?
All right.
Continental Hyatt House on Sunset Boulevard in L.A., known as the Riot House. Led Zeppelin used to rent out entire floors, drive motorcycles up and down the hallways, right? Crazy stuff. It was
Yeah.
the pool scene at Spinal Tap, the hotel pool scene was filmed there. Well, I'm 21 years old. I'm in my room with my roommate, a couple nights off, and 3 in the morning, uh, get a knock on the door. Look out the peephole, and it's Greg Allman standing there with a piece of paper. And Greg Allman was living in the hotel at the time, as was Little Richard, I believe. So Greg Allman said, "Open up the door." I opened up the door, and he says, "I want your cocaine." And I said, "I don't have any." And he said he used the BS word. He had a rooming list, and he was going from room to room, demanding everybody give him their cocaine because he knew when a tour bus rolled in that it was free cocaine for him. So my roommate panicked because this guy was not leaving without his cocaine and gave him a bag of Cremora from the coffee the little coffee set up at the hotel, and that was enough. And I guess he went down the hallway from door to door on our rooming list knocking. So that's when I met Greg Allman.
Good story.
Yeah, I got to see them a few years later. Same band I was working for. We did a show with them at Laguna Seca. I think he was a lot more clear headed then,
I
but yeah,
I met him one time. A friend of mine that I did a lot of work for was friends. He was a doctor, and he had actually become friends with Greg because he was in and out of the hospital
right.
so many times. They became great personal friends. I was doing a job for the guy, and I told Dave, I can't get there. I got to finish the other guys. He goes, I'll get you backstage and free tickets to the Allman Brothers if you finish mine first. So he did. He got me
Yeah,
backstage with the
yeah.
whole buffet, with the whole booze,
Oh
everything.
man,
I was literally standing on the stage about 2 feet behind the bass player. And
yeah.
when the band came back, I get to meet him.
Oh man, how was he? Nice guy,
He
very
was a nice,
quiet guy, right? Yeah,
yeah, quiet
yeah,
guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's that's pretty awesome. Uh, getting to meet your heroes, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know.
Who was your favorite almond?
Dwayne.
Okay. Do you remember when he died?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. What was that?
I have
71 or 72? What was it?
71.
Okay.
I have. Well, it's not up here now. I get a lot of Allman Brothers memorabilia.
Okay.
I get a nice frame photo of Dwayne the last night at the Fillmore East. I actually I pre-bought Greg Allman's last album, and then he got sick, and I didn't see it for the longest time.
Right.
And it finally showed up after he died, when he signed it for me.
Oh, what form was that in? A compact disc, as they
I have it
say?
on CD that he signed, and I bought his book that he signed.
Okay. Huh, I have to read
I
that book.
actually
I love
have, which it's up here, the one piece of music I left up here, but it's over on the other side of the room. I have a signed Eat a Peach album
Okay.
by the four original guys, not
Right.
Barry Oakley or Dwayne. I got the other four on it.
Right. Are you into Tedeschi trucks at all?
Oh, I've seen them numerous times.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good little thing they got going on there, huh?
Well, the Almonds used to play up the street here. You set up at the Tweeter before, correct?
Oh, many times, yeah, many
And they
times.
used to come 3 times a year, but they did it in 3 different months. They separated it.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
I
they
used
would only go out for 5 weeks at a time, which was great, and then they'd take a couple weeks off and do it again. I got offered a tour once and said yes, and thankfully it didn't work out. I just wasn't. I didn't want to go back to touring. It's not had nothing to do with the music. I would have loved to have worked with them, but it was just a bad timing.
yeah.
But
My other friend, the guy who got me backstage, who's just a complete fanatic with them. He went to the Beacon shows every year, all of them. He'd go every year, him and his buddies, and
yeah,
they'd go for the whole week and a half or whatever it was.
yeah, it's a good time. I mean, used to do the same thing too, right? They used to do
Yeah.
Clapton used to do a run there too in February or something like that. So,
I remember the last Almond show, they actually played it live on Sirius Radio. And
oh, huh,
I listened to it. It was pretty amazing.
yeah. Well, I mean, music and baseball and basketball. How could life get any better than this? You know, people could be talking.
Yeah.
We could be talking about politics or COVID or religion, but it's we could talk for hours about this. And you just got home from work, and I know you've had a long day. I appreciate you doing this,
Hey.
Mark.
Oh yeah, I had a tough act to follow with Cooter on the other night too. So
Cooter's the man, huh?
I love
Yeah.
that set. That's good. I love that show. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was no hesitation. He got back to me within seconds, and that's why I'm doing this thing. Is it's fun to it's fun to get uh, that extra element of what it means to you. You know, I can research a set all I want, but to hear it from collectors like you guys is just amazing. You know,
Yeah.
and I appreciate it because that's what it's about. It's about collecting and the enthusiasm for the hobby and whatever. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. One night we got to get all of us on one night and just talk
Got a few ideas about that. Yeah.
oddballs or something. You know.
Yeah, I have a few ideas about that. We can include some other people, which would be awesome because there's so much to, I bring it up time and time again. A wise man told me that I'd run out of stuff to talk about in the 70s. There's only 10 years, but man, I don't see that coming or happening. There's just too much to talk about, if anything. So,
yeah. Nope.
well, thanks, Mark. I'm going to read my big wrap up here.
Right.
Thank you for joining
Thanks
me
for
this
having me
week.
on.
Hey, no worries, man. Stick around for a second because
Yep.
I'm gonna. This is where I make my money. Thanks for joining me. My journey back in time. If you have a comment or suggestion, perhaps you have a set you'd like to see us discuss here, give me a shout at that70scardShow@gmail.com, 70s Card on Twitter, or that 70s Card Show on YouTube. Mango Safari is playing our music on the podcast. Mark, again, thanks. I'm not going to ask you what your collecting goals are because you score more goals than Wayne Gretzky. So yeah, so just again, I appreciate your guidance and your patience with me because I seem to continue to flub this collecting thing, but you always seem to put me back on track. So I appreciate it, man. Enjoy collecting, enjoy your collectionly, more importantly, enjoy your collection and be safe. And Mark, thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
Later.
Bye,
I'm
guys.
going to hit the end record and then